Okay, so going back to pick up some of the lessons that I wasn't able to do, and we're going to start with number 38. And when I read number 38, I came across a sentence that harkens back to the Bible and guidance I was given concerning this particular idea, and how to look at some of the things that were going on in the world today with the certainty that the underlying, how would I say this, even the defense mechanisms that we utilize, which is a subject that's dealt with extensively within the Sparkly edition, even the defense mechanisms that we utilize do harken back to our original state and our creative reality, although get perverted by the ego for its own use based on its need to be a getting device. So the sentence that was at the end of the lesson is, "There is nothing my holiness cannot do," and the sentence reads this: "The purpose of today's exercise is to begin to instill in you a sense that you have dominion over all things because of what you are." In the Bible, it talks about the fact that man has been given dominion over the animal, vegetable, mineral kingdom because of the nature of who he is and how he was created, being, in the sense, the Prince of Peace. If God is our Father and it is his kingdom, then that makes us the prince. We are a principality. And that also harkens back to esoteric teachings and the way man was looked at by earlier understandings of our divine nature. So when I look at it, we have the problem. We talk about GMO, genetic modification, and what goes on within cattle raising and slaughtering, and the whole idea that we have been given dominion over all things because of who we are and what we are is the basis for those types of behavior. However, when that understanding is interpreted by the ego being a getting mechanism based on need and lack, what we have is begin to manipulate what we have dominion over for the purpose of justifying our condition of being in need and lack, and thereby utilizing it to reinforce the false condition and the laws of man rather than the laws of God. In a true sense, we have been given dominion over all things, and yet in our holiness, which are one and the same thing, in the wholeness of our creation, having been created without lack, and certainly without a love lack or a lack of love in us, the kingdom of heaven is reigned by the rule of love. And when we look at having dominion over all things, it would include the world. The admonition begins to be to look upon the world with the eyes of love, and with the eyes of love, there's nothing that your holiness could not do. And in fact, in the recognition of our holiness and the experiential, let's call it the experiential understanding, the nature of experiencing your own wholeness to be that which is created without need and without lack of any kind, the way we would express our dominion over all things would not be certainly one of the need to modify genetics in order to overproduce so that we can utilize everything to feed the need and the lack that we experience, rather than utilize the love of God as a way to look upon all things and let all things be responsive to love rather then let all things be modified by the fear of the ego that there will never be enough, and that unless we do these things, everyone's going to starve. Now, there's a line earlier. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. Your holiness reverses all the laws of the world, which is what which has just been speaking to. Is beyond every restriction of time and space, distance, and limits of any kind. Your holiness is totally unlimited in its power because it establishes you as a son of God at one with the mind of his creator. Not one, not in a sense the same as our creator. All things are limited, and this is another misunderstanding that is brought about by the way the Course is worded, and the ego's attempt to interpret the words of the Course rather than ask for clarification of the terms used in the Course based on our ability to contact the Holy Spirit. Your holiness is totally unlimited in its power because it establishes you as a son of God at one with the mind of his creator. Now, God, Father, created us in his likeness and image. And there's no escaping the fact that while we do share one mind with our creator, as Jesus says in the Course, everything is limited by the nature of its creation. Now, many people think that there's something wrong or that was an errant line, rather than understanding that just because we have been limited by the nature of our creation, it doesn't mean that our power is limited. Our power is unlimited. What it means is that the Son cannot create the Father, yet the Son establishes the fatherhood of God. So while all things are limited by the nature of its creation, we were not created limited in any aspect other than the fact that we can't create God the Father as God the Son. Yet in order for there to be the fatherhood of God, we must accept our true role as Son of God. Through your holiness, the power of God is made manifest. Through your holiness, the power of God is made available to you. And there is nothing the power of God cannot do. It reminds me of the Baltimore Catechism. Second question, who am I? And the answer is, why did God create me? God created me to show forth his goodness. And that's the nature of our creation and how we're created. And that's the nature of how we were given truly to express dominion over all things, not from the egoic standpoint of lack and need, but from the standpoint of the true nature of God as being all giving and all loving and all powerful. And so this would establish the reign of love as Jesus began to introduce to us 2,000 years ago. To learn, he taught love, teach only love, for that is what you are. But in order for you to be only love, God must be love as well, which would eliminate the idea that we're being punished for something that we did and allow us to come into the recognition that a loving God allows us the free will to get the result of our own thinking. And if we're getting results that we don't like, then it must be our thinking that's the cause of the results that we're getting. And if we change our mind, we can change the results that we're getting. Well, that's the next power. That's the next sentence. Your holiness then can remove all pain, can end all sorrows, and can solve all problems. And this is the line I wanted to get to. It can do so in connection with yourself or with anyone else. It is equal in its power to help anyone because it is equal in its power to save anyone. And as we begin to recognize our wholeness is our salvation. If you are holy, so is everything God created. You are holy because all things he created are holy. And all things he created are holy because you are. So it's sort of, well, it's not circular. It certainly is holographic and of an expansive nature. Um, if you are holy, so is everything God created. You are holy because all things he created are holy. All things he created are holy because you are. And all your creations, the creations of light, which are being held in abeyance until you recognize your own whole, true, perfect light and release yourself from the darkness of the sight, the darkness that, as he says in the Course, came upon man when he decided to close his spiritual eye to light. So as we begin to reopen our light, our eye, spiritual eye to light, the light and the love of God, we begin to see with the single eye of light. And if our eye is single, then how bright will that light be? And how bright will we see with that light? It lights up the world. And as he says here, it's equal in power to help anyone. Why? Because we share that light. And the light in one mind can shine into another and reawaken it instantaneously. And ultimately, that's what we're looking for. Jesus is shining his light directly into your mind right now through the utilization of the words that we're reading, because nothing leaves its source. And I assure you, these words come from the mind of Christ Jesus directly into your mind as the Christ. And he may not be, he's not speaking into the body, he's speaking into the core of your being. And he's awakening you from the sleep that allows you to think you could be a body in space-time and subject to anything here. You're not subject to anything here. You have been given dominion over all things, being the Prince of creation. You are holy because all things here are created, and all things here are created are holy because you are. So in today's exercise, apply the power of your holiness to all problems, all difficulties, and all suffering in any form that you happen to think of in yourself or in someone else. We will make no distinctions because there are no distinctions. There could be no distinctions in wholeness, especially the wholeness that was created by God, because God, being whole, shares his wholeness with each and every one of you. You're a whole perfect soul in the kingdom, sharing the wholeness of the kingdom and having been given dominion over all things. So shine that light. There is nothing your holiness cannot do. Go out and practice the lesson. By now we have 4 longer practice periods, plus we're using it throughout the day constantly. So remember, there is nothing my holiness cannot do. Thank you. So there's nothing your holiness cannot do. Because that read, if you are holy, so is everything. So if you're holy, I'm holy. If you're holy, so is everything God created. And you are holy because all things he created are holy. So if I'm holy, you're holy. And all things he created are holy because you are. So he's holy. We're all whole and perfect. That's the nature of our creation. It's unassailable, not assaultable by the laws of man, not changeable by anything, yet it remains unrecognized until you release yourself from thinking that you're subject to the laws of man and become recognized in your own experience as having been given dominion over all things because of your holiness.